This module on international cooperation and international law has been very interesting. Uh, an aspect of it that I have enjoyed is, for example, what we learned with the game that we played in class. I mean, that's not necessarily part of the readings, but it definitely helped understand how cooperation works and how it, in the end, serves as a self-interest, and how, in the end, when the majority, um, not even the majority, but like around half of those involved in a simulation or in a system are players or actors that act according to a more cooperative stance, it it usually ends up turning the whole entire system into that, which is more of what we understand from like the liberal aspect or the liberal perspective in international relations. Something that caught my attention a lot was the example of Vietnam that it shared at the end, towards the end of the reading for this week in Essentials of International Relations, using Vietnam and its story and its history as a example of not only cooperation but deterrence against a actor who is aggressively trying to change the overall system in a regional area. For example, um, the the role Vietnam played in ASEAN and how it went from gaining independence to, for example, what happened in the Cold War and the Vietnam War, to being able to join the UN, and how it was able to get out of its isolation. And I thought it was very interesting seeing Vietnam's role against, for example, uh, China's infliction, you could say, against the nearby countries within the South China Sea, and how they have had a very unified stance as far as trying to not only unified but uh, going off of precedent, for example, going off of the what's it called? The law of the sea and the international law that has to do with the infringement that China is putting onto these other countries trying to claim the islands within the South China Sea. I thought that was a very interesting example that we saw in the readings this week, and it really made me think about how, in the end, including in the liberal stance or in all the IR theories, a lot of the stances that actors or countries might have are often done in self-interest. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just highlights the fact that everyone wants to better themselves. Everyone wants to be able to grow and be better. I thought that was very interesting. And another thing that caught my attention a lot was the idea of like horizontal enforcement, I think is what it's called, of how the states will hold each other accountable. And that's something that you can see within, like, the UN, for example. This module has been very interesting, and it's been very interesting to be able to see all the different examples, the real world examples that help us understand how international law and international cooperation works. And I've honestly quite enjoyed it. This class is my favorite class, and honestly, it's been very interesting to be able to understand these things through real world examples and to grow off of it.